Hi guys, welcome back to That If and Guy, and today we're going to discuss Alfred Molina's comments on. I'm laughing because it's like, oh, you stupid. Alfred Molina's comments in regards to his character of Doc Ock returning from 2004's Spider-Man 2 all the way over now to this year's Spider-Man No Way Home, aka Marvel Studios Spider-Man 3, with Tom Holland returning as Spider-Man, along with some speculated, rumoured other characters, aka Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. Um, we now this is it's interesting because we had confirmation that Alfred Molina is returning as Doc Ock, but not as the Spider-Man 2 Doc Ock, similar to Jamie Foxx, returning as Electro. I mean, both of them have confirmed that they're returning. They are returning, but it's Alfred Molina's comments in regards to returning. So this is coming from comicbookmovie.com, but the original article is from Variety, from journalist Kate Arthur. So Alfred Molina was obviously asked about Spider-Man No Way Home. And he does. I mean, I'm not going to go through it all. I'm going to go pinpoint some certain bits. He does make a comment that obviously it was all whilst filming Spider-Man No Way Home, it was all secretive, etc. It was all forbidden. You couldn't talk. So he does say when we were shooting it. So obviously Spider-Man No Way Home has. I keep wanting to say Far From Home. Spider-Man No Way Home has finished filming. It finished I think it was 2 weeks ago. I think it was. So he does comment that when we were shooting it, we were all under orders not to talk about it because it was supposed to be some great big secret, but it's all over the internet. I actually described myself as the worst kept secret in Hollywood. So he's talking about the fact that obviously it came out that Doc Ock was returning, Alfred Molina was returning. There was no information as to how he was returning. It was just the fact that he was playing Doc Ock in this new universe, the MCU universe, similar to obviously J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson, as obviously we've seen at the end of Far From Home, revealing that Peter Parker is Spider-Man and he killed Jake Gyllenhaal's Mysterio. This is where it gets interesting. So comicbookmovie.com are saying while the vast majority of Marvel stars are often chose to remain tight-lipped about their involvement in the MCU, Molina was more than happy to share the news with Variety and even opened up about his experience reprising the iconic role after nearly 2 decades. So that's cool. Talking about the workmanship that you put in, the fact that you are, because he does comment, he does joke about the fact that he is older, he's got a slightly dodgier lower back, he's got crow's feet, 2 chins. So he does comment that he is older. It is, it's years later. As far as how he returns, well, that's a little murky, especially when you consider that his character died in his last appearance. However, when director John Watts told him, and this is obviously Molina's quote, in this universe, no one really dies. And that's understandable. In the MCU, in any comic book universe, science fiction universe, fictional universe, no one really dies. We know that. The plan was set in motion and Molina was fully on board. So obviously, John Watts, he told him the idea of how he was going to return. I think it was via a Zoom call. And he said that obviously, because no one really dies in this universe, he's thinking, oh, I'll come back. Fair enough. So he was obviously a little bit hesitant in coming back. Comicbookmovie.com then go on to say he didn't divulge much else, but he did reveal that Doc Ock's story. And this is where this is where he's obviously stepping into some really, really hot water. And I can probably believe that Kevin Feige is probably thinking, he fucking said, what? Now, we knew that Doc Ock was returning, Alfred Molina, but we didn't know how or how they're doing it or where it's starting from. We didn't know if it is Doc Ock from the 2004 Spider-Man 2 film or just a new version. But Molina, and I think Molina, kind of thought that, right, we filmed it, everyone knows I'm in it, I'm sure I can talk about how I come back. And that's, now, I don't know if it's maybe been the journalist, Kate Arthur, who's maybe pressured him, but reworded her questions to make it that he feels okay, obliged to tell her. And, you know, they've got an exclusive that kind of is going to put him in some deep shit with Kevin Feige and the other execs over at Disney and Marvel and Sony as well. But yeah, so he mentions that the Doc Ock story picks up immediately after that moment, i.e., the moment where he was in the river and he sacrificed himself to save Peter and Mary Jane, Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst. So you're thinking, okay, strike one. The fact that Alfred Molina has pretty much just told us that it starts, his story in this new film starts exactly where the river scene happens and he sacrifices himself. So whether he gets pulled into a portal just before he dies, or he gets pulled out into a portal as he does die and gets brought back from the dead. But then you're thinking, but he's 17 years late, 17 years older. But this is where it explains it. So he has an issue with obviously the age, with the fact he is older. So when expressing his concerns to Watts, he was assured that he'll look good. And he says, he just looked at me. So this is Molina saying what Watts said via Zoom, via their interview or their meeting in Zoom. He just looked at me and said, "Did you see what we did to Bob Downey Jr. and Sam Jackson?" Fair enough. So they're clearly going to DH him. So it literally will be Dr. Otto Octavius from 2004, but 17 years later, and he'll still look like, so he's going to get de-aged. And Marvel have produced some shockingly amazing de-aging skills, with Kurt Russell being de-aged in the start of Guardians 2, the de-aging of Robert Downey Jr. from obviously now to back to 1991. Melina joked they made Robert De Niro's face younger, but when he was fighting, he looked like an older guy. That's one of the issues, obviously. So the de-aging works, but when the actor is running or fighting, they're still going to be an older person. So that's not going to work too well. He looked like an old guy, he said. So that's what worried me about going doing it again. I don't have the same physicality that I did 17 years ago, and that's just a fact. That's understandable. But he then was reminded that I remember that it's the tentacles that do all the work. Basically, in a nutshell, Alfred Molina is 100% in this movie. We know that already. But it was the secrecy of, we don't know how he's in it or where he's going to be in it. And he's kind of just spilt the beans. And again, we don't know fully how he's taken from 2004. They're in 2023, I think it is. 2023. So 19 years later. So it'll be interesting. So what do you guys think? Do you guys think that Molina should have mentioned all that? I mean, at the end of the day, what we can also look at it as, maybe Alfred Molina has been told by Kevin Feige, John Watts, etc., play the cards close to your chest, like Kevin Feige has done with all the, the questions and theories and rumors regarding Spider-Man 3. Has he been told, tell them this, but really that's not actually the true story? Thanks again, guys, for watching this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Podcast of the Old Republic, myself, Stephen Dan's Star Wars themed podcast, Podbean, Apple Podcast, Spotify, YouTube channel, link in the description below. Comment what you think, again, like I said, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.